Hello, today we're going to see a demonstration of Infinite I rehosting. Infinite I rehosting is available for multiple platforms, that is Windows, different flavors of Unix like AIX from IBM, HPUX from Hewlett-Packard, Solaris from Oracle, and also Linux. In today's demo, the system will be demonstrated in Linux. In this case, I have two different Linux machines. The one that we're seeing here is where Infinite I is installed. We can see the installation directory here. And I have a second Linux machine with Oracle Database Server version 11G, which we will be utilizing later during the demo. So we're going to connect now using a 5250 client or 5250 telnet client. This is the sign-on screen, and we are connecting to Infinite I rehosting. So I'm providing credentials, and we land on the main menu. For the demonstration, I'd like to start showing the migration of a sample application coming from an AS400. So for this, we're going to go into menu option 60, and then option 10, restore application. And in this command, we're going to provide the parameters to restore a save file of a library that was previously saved on the AS400. The library resides on the Linux box in the directory savfs, and the save file is called thasasf.savf. So we're going to provide those parameters and the path to the save file. When I process enter, the restore application command is going to start processing the content of the save file, and is going to create the target library based on the name of the actual library saved within the save file. And then it's going to start restoring the different type of objects. All those objects that are created in the AS400 without writing source code, like data areas, data queues, output queues, job descriptions, etc., are restored immediately. There is no source code that has to be compiled, so the objects are immediately created in the target library. Also, Infinite will be restoring the content of the source physical files, all the source members for QDDS source, QRPG source, QCommand source, etc. And also the data files will be restored, and they will be temporarily placed in this interim library. The interim library is a helper library that is used during the migration to store information about the application that is being migrated, as well as the data for the physical files. So when I press enter here, the restore application command is going to be processing the save file and restoring its contents. That runs pretty fast because this is just a demo library with small content. In this case here, we have the opportunity to specify the name of another save file if we were migrating more than one save file. Typically that's the case in a real life application. And in this case, since it's just a demo, we are just restoring only one save file, so we don't have any more files to restore. We indicate that with start n, and we process enter. So as we can see here at the bottom of the screen, there is a message indicating that the library thasa.prod.m has been created. At this moment, we can go with a work object or work with libraries using PDM and look at the content of the library. So this library now resides in Infinite I running on Linux. We can see the name of the library and the different type of objects that have already been created, like for example menu files or menu objects, the different type of source physical files for CL, DDS, RPG, etc. A job description, a message file, data area, data queue, etc. We can look at a particular source physical file, for example QCL source, and we can look at the content of a particular CL program. As you can see, we do not alter, we do not change the content of the source code coming from the S400. We just restore it into the new environment, and then at a second step, at a later time, we will be compiling this. We can look at, for example, a physical file. That's a typical DDS for a physical file, or an RPG program. Infinite I also supports COBOL 400, COBOL ILE, and the most typical type of sources and objects present in an application. So at this point, we're going to proceed with the compilation of all the sources. For that, we're going to execute build instructions, menu option 72. And the only information that we need to specify here is the parameter for the interim library. At this point, the interim library contains information about all the sources that have been restored and that are ready for compilation. So when I press enter, the run beef command is going to start compiling first the physical files, then logical files. It will continue compiling display files and printer files, and once it has finished compiling all the different type of files, it will continue compiling CL programs, RPG, RPG-ILE, COBOL, etc. So when I press enter here, it will be possible to see in line 24 some progress messages indicating the different type of sources that are being compiled. It's compiling RPG now. And ILE. And it's done. We can review the results of the compilation by using option 71, display build instructions, and indicating the name of that control or interim library. And here we have a menu that is organized by source member type. We can see that we had 7 sources ready for compilation and 7 compiled successfully or completed successfully. We also have the status column here indicating that result. Same with logical files. In this case, we have only one logical file, and we have 2 entries because one is for the file and the second entry is for the member, and they both compile successfully. Display files, and so on. So this is a control panel, or a part of the migration tool. It's a menu option that will allow you to control the different results of the migration process. At this point, the application is ready to be executed, but first we're going to review the content of the library one more time, and we can see that we have more objects, more different type of objects. For example, we have objects with type *PGM that we didn't have before, and this is the result of compiling CL programs and RPG programs in this case. We also have a file, or several files, but in this case a physical file with data, and we can look at the content. We can actually press F10 and F11 and look at the content in hex mode, and we can see that the data is maintained in FCDIC. Infinite migrates the data from the S400 into the alternate environment, in this case Linux, and it preserves the encoding, in this case is FCDIC. We also have support for the different type of fields, including pack fields. In this case, the key for the file for each record is customer number, and the developer decided to make it a pack field, and you can see here how we have 3 bytes for the pack field, bytes position 1, 2, and 3. Infinite I comes with a built-in database out of the box that it has compatibility or support for all the DB2 functions. It is not the DB2 database, it's our own implementation, and it supports or offers support for physical and logical files, join files, multi-member, multi-formats. It supports journaling and commitment control, triggers, etc. So all those different elements that are very typical of a DB2 database are present in our own implementation, and it provides support for the different type of files. So at this point, we can add the library to the library list with the typical add library list entry command. We can review the library list, and we can see that the library was added there. Optionally, we could have executed the edt libl command, and we could have manipulated the library list in a more interactive way using this command. And now we can call the menu driver for this application. In this case is INV PGMR. And here we have the RPG application migrated from an AS400 into Infinite, running in the new environment. The behavior is identical, it's the same exact behavior in which the application will present text-based screens with all the support for different type of input and output fields and 50-50 attributes, including function keys, etc. We can execute menu option 2, customer list, and now we have a subfile. We can page up and down. We can choose a particular entry, and now we are in customer maintenance display. We're editing this particular customer, and we can make a change. For example, I'm going to change the customer name, and when I press enter, we don't see that entry ALE at the top of the list anymore, because this list is sorted alphabetically, so we can page down and we will find it at the end of the list, just as a proof that the file has been updated and the content of the subfile has been refreshed. Infinite supports an entire runtime environment that provides support for AS400 applications. That environment includes a job description and a job environment, like the one that we are looking at here with the display job environment. So we can look at attributes like the job status attributes, the time and date when the job was entered in the system, when the job was started. That could be useful if the job was scheduled to start at another time. The type of job, we have support for interactive and batch jobs. The job definition attributes with elements like a job description, job queue, output queue, job date, date format, etc. We also provide support for a job log, and the messages in the job log are sensitive to the F1 key, so you can press, you can position the cursor in a particular message and press F1, and it will bring a particular additional message information for that message. The call stack is supported. That will allow you to see the list of nested programs being executed. Display logs to look at all the different objects that are being used by a particular job. Display open files, another very important command to look at all the different data or display or printer files used by a particular job. Other commands include work with active job, We can see here that we have different subsystems: QBatch, QControl, QSpool. We have support for printers and printer writers. Work with user jobs. Work with submitted jobs. Commands like copy file, with all the different parameters required to perform any copy file operation. Open query file, very important and powerful command present in many applications. Overwrite database file, and overwrite printer file is also present, as we can see here. In summary, all the different commands that are required to execute a typical AS400 application written in RPG, RPG-ILE, COBOL, or also the variants of RPG with embedded SQL, RPG-ILE with embedded SQL, and COBOL with embedded SQL, are all of those different variations are supported in Infinite I. Well, I would like to conclude the presentation for today. Thank you for watching.